The New York Mets are reportedly involved in the center field market in this year's trade deadline. Today, I'm going to provide you guys with 3 realistic trade options, plus 1 bonus one at the end. Make sure you stick around. Yo, what's going on, Mets fans? As always, I am Rain. If you're enjoying this content, all I ask is you to smash that like button. Give us a thumbs up. Consider becoming a member if you want to be guaranteed to get your comments read on our live streams, on our post games, or when we have guests. But let's get down to business. It has been widely reported the New York Mets are involved in the center field market, as yes, Tyrone Taylor has done a splendid job defensively for the New York Mets, but very subpar at the plate, as he's been a negative WAR player. And that's something that simply cannot happen on a World Series caliber team. The New York Mets entered the season with hopes that Jose Siri would take his game to the next level. He got injured right out the gate, and Tyrone Taylor has been the steady guy in center field, along with Jeff McNeil here or there. But I think the New York Mets need to acquire a better all-around talent in center field. Yes, they've been involved to potentially in the third base market, but I think they're going to allow Mauricio, Beatty, and Vientos fight it out for that position heading into the playoffs in 2025. But I do believe they will be acquiring a center field bat. But here it is. I'm going to give you guys 3 realistic trade options that I could see, plus 1 bonus one at the end, which would be a magical home run. But these 3 trade options are realistic, and they've been guys that have been rumored to be available. So let's get to it. The number 3 realistic trade option for the New York Mets is Luis Roberts of the Chicago White Sox. And yes, you guys all know, if you've been following the channel, I am no fan of Luis Roberts Jr. Now, there are some bright sides to him. He's still young enough, only 27 years of age. But again, he's having a subpar year this year, batting just in the 190s. And it has been a steady decline since 2023. When you single-handedly just look at his OPS numbers here, he had an 857 OPS back in 2023, 657 last year, and just a 599 OPS this year, which clearly for me would not be enough. But John Heyman reported earlier this week that the New York Mets have potentially expressed interest, or at least checked in on him. He is due $15 million throughout the entirety of this year. So roughly, you give or take $5 or $6 million left this year, with club options over the next 2 years. He's got a club option for $20 million in 2026 and $20 million again in 2027. But for me, $20 million, way overvalued. His best years are behind him. And I said this earlier today in my short, I am done with the buying low, praying a guy turns it around to 2 years ago. This is no longer the Wilpon era when it comes to the New York Mets. We are big fish hunters, or at least average fish hunters, in my opinion, when it comes to the New York Mets and acquiring talent at the deadline. Now, coming into this year, the rumor was Chicago was requesting a high-end level prospect and someone who's almost ready to make it to the major leagues. Maybe a Drew Gilbert type plus something else would probably be what it takes to get it done. Gilbert is not crazy highly thought after throughout MLB circles. He is 24 years old. He has stepped it up while in AAA over these last few weeks. He still projects to be a everyday starter at the major league level. Maybe not the star that he was once thought of to be when acquired in the Justin Verlander deal. It looks more and more like the blue chip prospect in that deal is going to be Ryan Clifford, who's been absolutely mashing down in the minor leagues. But that is our number 3 option for the New York Mets, Luis Roberts. And at number 2, we have our old friend Harrison Bader of the Minnesota Twins, another realistic trade option for the New York Mets. He has a couple $1 million left on his contract this year in 2026, a mutual option for 1 year at $10 million. Now, Harrison's had a solid season this year, 254, 11 home runs, light years ahead of our boy Tyron Taylor out there in the field. A little bit of a resurgence, and that's something that I've called for time and time again on this channel. If you guys have been followers, we all know I've been calling for league average players, an OPS of 761. So he's right there, slightly above league average. We all know the defense that he could play in center field for the New York Mets. We watched it last year. We watched him play great left field for the Twins, throwing guys out in the Twin series with the New York Mets. Now, he could be one of those options that you bring in. He fights with Jose Siri once Jose Siri comes back for that center field position, which I think he would actually overtake Jose Siri. And then it's really more of a one-year option. If you want to bring him back for one more year, you have that mutual option. But we cannot forget that we still have Jet Williams down in the minors, tearing it up in AA. He's got an 891 OPS right now, and the New York Mets recently made him consistently play center field. So it looks like that's where they're going to be projecting him as they go down the line with him. So that would be kind of a win-win for the Mets, where you probably have to give up even less for a guy like Harrison Bader than Luis Roberts, because the ceiling is not there, but you're not stuck with making that decision at the end of the year. Do I decide to pay him $20 million next year and the year after that? If Harrison Bader doesn't work out this year, you can cut your ties. Or if it works out and he plays well for you and he wants to come back and be a New York Met, you could bring him back for that one-year deal. You would have him and Jose Siri battling out for center field, hoping that somewhere in the mid-season to late season of 2026, a guy like Jet Williams could take over. That type of trade could be a win-win for the New York Mets, and I'm expecting nothing in the top 10, probably a 15 to 25 type prospect to bring a guy like Harrison Bader back, considering that he's never been a high-end player. That ceiling is not there for him. He's a league average player, and yes, there'll be some other teams that'll be involved with him, but I do believe he could be had for the right price, and I don't think it would cost a lot. Again, a 15 to 20 type prospect, probably closer to 20 to 25 type prospect from the New York Mets. I go back a couple years, look at what a guy like Tommy Pham got from the when the Mets traded him. That type of prospect in return, somebody who's really young, 17, 18 years old, 19 years old, that won't be projected to be in the big leagues probably for 4 or 5 years in the lower half of the New York Mets farm system. So there you have it. Number 2, Harrison Bader. And my number 1 realistic trade option for the New York Mets is center fielder Cedric Mullins of the Baltimore Orioles. He is having a bit of a down year, 218, 13 home runs, 13 stolen bases, but we got to see him recently, the type of firecracker he could be for a team. And when I say most realistic, I feel like he fits what the New York Mets need in this lineup. His OPS is 713, typically plays around 720. That's where he's going to be at, a bottom of the order type player for the New York Mets. But last year he had 18 home runs. This year he's got 13 home runs, hasn't a ton of home runs as of late, 312 at-bats, which if you project that out, that's 25 to 27 home runs for the whole season, only making $8.725 million this year, which we're more than halfway through. So you're probably a little over $3 million with the cap that could be cap friendly to the New York Mets. I wouldn't expect it to cost a major type prospect, probably a prospect between 12 and 18 range. That's what I'd be looking at. Nobody within the top 10. Cedric Mullins is simply not worth that, as he's a UFA after this season, but he could fit an immediate need for the New York Mets. And I don't think he actually might not cost as much as Harrison Bader, considering the type of season that Harrison Bader's having. So maybe you could get even lucky and get more of a closer to 18 to 20 type prospect for him. Baltimore is clearly out of the playoff race. They are dead last in the American League East and falling. So my number 1 realistic trade option for the New York Mets is Cedric Mullins. And here you have it, the home run trade for the New York Mets, if they were ever able to pull something off like this. A Byron Buxton from the Minnesota Twins, who has 3 years left on his contract at $15.1 million until the age of 34. Then you kiss him goodbye, having another unbelievable season. 289, 21 home runs, 56 RBIs, and 17 stolen bases. A year where he's finally healthy. That OPS is 925, coming off last year 859. An absolute stud of a player. The New York Mets would be blessed to bring a guy like that into the lineup. Probably have the best 1 through 5 in baseball. Allows you to compete with the lineups with the likes of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He would be the all above pick for the New York Mets trade, excuse me. Do I think it's realistic? No, but if you're going to be trading for a guy like him, you're obviously going to be including a guy like a Jet Williams, probably a Jet Williams, and one of the top 3 pitchers, either a Sproat, a McLean, or a Tung. And I'm guessing like a Jesus Baez, a top end second base shortstop, another top 10 player. So you might be looking at your number 1 prospect in Jet Williams, your number 3 prospect, in my opinion, in a guy like Brandon Sproat, and your number 7 prospect guy in a guy like Jesus Baez, who's at second base shortstop, but he's still years away. And those are my 4 guys who I think the Mets could address. 3 of them are more realistic than the 4, but Byron Buxton might be a little bit of a pipe dream, but I still think that if the David Stearns and the New York Mets want to swing for the fence, as we keep hearing, this is the year to go for it. A guy like Byron Buxton with 3 years left on his contract at just $15.1 million would be the ultimate home run swing. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. What do you think about these trades? Which one would you want to see the Mets make? And let me know if there's a player out there that I'm not seeing that you might think's available that you think the Mets want to trade for. Again, I am Rain. If you enjoy this content, I ask you to like and subscribe and pay attention as we run post games just about at the end of every single game. We are live. Bring your heat, bring your opinions. We love to chop it up with you guys as fans. And as always, let's go Mets. Peace.